Welcome back, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
It's time for week 3.
It's a joy to be here.
That's right, which is a hint.
Joy-filled atmosphere.
Can you guess what this week is about? It's joy.
Joy.
Let's talk about joy.
Like from Inside Out, or
We
from
could.
Or
she
like
might make a present.
joy, like Advent joy.
Oh, joy! Yeah.
I had so after Zion he was born, I was so scared to take him home,
Right.
and there was the charge nurse on the floor who had been there the whole time, and she brought me into her office, and she said, "You are going to be a great dad. You have everything it takes to be a good father. Here's the things I see in you." And like, it was the coolest thing. And her name had been Joy. And that person, as a charge nurse and pouring into me, and her name of Joy seemed to embody the essence of joy for me from that point on. And I just thought I would bring that to the table.
So for you, like, that's what joy is.
yeah.
It's her. You picture her.
So it's not her, it's the
things she did.
Right.
What she brings.
it's
Yeah.
the empowerment. Joy is not just a feeling. There's an empowerment under it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm preaching on joy this weekend or last weekend, whatever.
Maybe
You
in our
do that.
listening
You
to
just
You
preached
just
on
preached
joy.
on
I
it.
just
Man, that was good. That was powerful.
thanks.
It's like Inception.
Yes. So I've been thinking about it a lot. I feel like joy is, just as you said, this really deeply rooted thing. Like, happiness is this surface level thing, but joy, like, I think probably something that I said last weekend was joy isn't a feeling that we feel. Joy is a reality that we experience. And in the sermon, I also probably read this thing we're giving away that's when we're recording this. So there's this poet. His name is Christian Wyman.
That's a good name.
It is. And he wrote the best description of joy I've ever read.
Okay, hold
I'm
on.
gonna
Let's
read it here.
prepare ourselves.
Okay, this isn't a poem, but it is very poetic.
Okay.
Joy, that durable, inexhaustible, essential, inadequate word. That something in the soul that makes one able to claim again the word soul. That sensation more exalting than happiness, less graspable than hope, though both of these feelings are implicated, challenged, and changed. That seed of being that can bud even in our circumstance of ice, as Daniel Chapman puts it. So that faith is suddenly not something one need contemplate, struggle for, or even have really, but is simply there, as the world is there. There's no way to plan for, much less conjure such an experience. One can only try to make oneself fit to feel the moment when it comes and let it carry you where it will. And then later on in something else, he described joy as a flash of eternity. And so to me, like, since then, it hasn't been just like, oh, I feel joyful. It's like, no, like pinpointing, I don't know, like this practice of like, if I think I'm feeling joy, I try to grab a hold of that and find the deepest depths, the roots of that go and see where it leads.
I truly, I hope in this podcast that there's the ability to kind of unpack that a lot. Just like going back to the story of Nehemiah, I think, where he says, "The joy of the Lord is my strength." that like his strength is the joy of the Lord.
Yeah.
How does strength and joy go hand in hand? Like that is it.
Yeah.
Instead of something that it's become. And so thinking about this Advent series of hope and then peace, of course, and then joy. If joy is more of this thing of power and strength and depth, and I don't have it. If it's more of that, then hark the herald angel.
Yeah. So I have a picture in mind when I think about joy. Golly, this must have been about 17, maybe 18 years ago. I had a cousin who passed away in his sleep, right? And it was super tragic. He was like 28 years old and totally unexpected. And I remember being at his funeral. It was in downtown LA at this, really cool hipster church that he was a part of. And I remember I was sitting like 2 rows back from my aunt and uncle, who had just buried their son. And there was a time of worship there. And there was that song, Blessed Be the Name by Matt Redman that the band was doing. And there's that line like, you give and you take away, you give and you take away. My
is
heart
it possible
will
to
choose
sing
to
it?
say.
I just sing it just a
Stetson
little?
can actually.
Nope, that's okay.
Lord,
Lord, you sing
blessed be your name.
Okay.
And I remember sitting behind them and watching them with their arms just outstretched to the Lord, weeping as they sang this song in the midst of the hardest, most devastating loss of their life. For me, when I think about joy, that's the picture that I get. It is not something that is rooted in circumstances, because that was a very, very, very sad time. But it was rooted in the promises of God. It was rooted in the strength of the Lord to continue pressing forward, to continue worshiping, because for them, they knew joy would come in the morning. So like, I don't know if that like answers your question. Like, but when I think about joy and what is joy, like it is so much more than a feeling. It is so much more than just, oh, like I'm happy or I'm sad today. Like joy is anchoring yourself in the truth and the reality of who God is and the goodness of who He is, and pressing forward and holding on to that regardless of the things that you're facing in your life. So like that's my picture of joy. Like it is my aunt and uncle worshiping as they buried their son.
That's incredible. Mine's very much more circumstantial.
That's okay.
However, it's funny that you bring up, you have this moment, of what she brought joy. Like that's what you think of, right? When this nurse,
Yeah.
So I just sitting here, I was thinking like, what is this moment in my head? And it's something that Paul and I go back to all the time, of like this picture of pure, like unbridled joy. And it's our youngest daughter. I'm going to bring in Disney. I haven't brought in Disney this entire podcast, but I'm bringing it in. But she was like 2.5, and we took her to Disney for the first time. And, obviously she knew we were going and everything. And we had her in her stroller. She got out of the stroller to run up to the castle, and this girl ran with pure joy. Like, if I have the clip, I'll give it, and we'll see if we can put it in. But she ran, like, to the point of, like, I will go and abandon my family and get lost in Disney at 2.5 to go to this,
I will do that at 44.
Yeah. Yeah. But there was like all security gone. I don't care. She just abandoned us to go, and we watch it over and over, and because we were just laughing, like how funny and how joy-filled she was. And like people were watching her just run, and definitely circumstantial, but it's where my brain goes
like
back.
I think those two often hold hands though, because there are moments where joy is this like beautiful, emotive, circumstantial, like, oh, like this is so good. But then there are the other moments where it's like, this is really hard, but it's still good. And yeah, they hold hands with one another. I think where we get lost sometimes is that we purely make it about the emotions and we purely make it about how we feel. It's like, well, I don't know. Some days we just feel bad. And I think we sell ourselves short. I think it is both of those things, and we might experience joy in different ways in different seasons of our life. And like, that's okay.
I mean, I think it has to be said though, that there is joy and then there is joy. That joy is a fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
That is, the Holy Spirit is a gift, and to be able to participate side by side in the things that the Spirit is doing, that one of the proofs of the Spirit is joy. It's not happiness, but that there is this sense of joy that's inspired by hope and peace. So as you're going through this journey in Advent, this idea of being able to talk about the things hoped for that Jesus is bringing up, the places that he is desiring to bring peace. And of course, the asking of Jesus and the partnership and the thing that's happening there is the engagement of the Holy Spirit. And so as you're going through these things that could be fun, could be horrible, that could be challenging, there is a joy that is going to be taking place.
For me, joy is intrinsically linked to eternity or things that are eternal. Like joy is a fruit of the Spirit. Like I almost view joy as like our link to eternity. Like your daughter running to the castle. Like she lost concept of her age and her family. And like none of that mattered. It's just, and the family, like singing, they probably weren't, like they were probably just feeling grief, but it was an awareness of eternity. Even though it wasn't a feeling, it was an awareness of eternity that made them sing at their son's funeral because they knew that they were going to see them again. And as I have like tried that on, for me personally, I feel like it's checked out in the sense of like when I get the sense that I'm feeling joy, I've just practiced defining it as like, does this feel like eternity? Yes, at least for me, it has. It's like this glimpse of things to come or glimpse of how things have always meant to be. And just the other week, and I might have brought this up in my sermon a few weeks ago, I needed to come up and do that piece after the first song and like welcome everybody in and stuff. And like, I wasn't feeling like negative about it, but just like neutral. I was like, okay, here I go. Say hi, everybody. Like, welcome, say hi to each other. But as soon as I walk in, it was just like, whoa. And it was just this feeling of just like, whoa, like, I don't know. It's so hard to describe. And like I spoke on joy 2 years ago, I think, during Advent, and then this year too. And what I've always loved is no one has like a solid definition for it. The Bible doesn't define it exactly for what it is. Like it is just this essence of something that can't be defined.
It's like you don't know how to define it, but you know it when you feel it.
Yeah, which for me at least confirms this theory. It's like the essence of joy is eternity. Like how can you define something that is eternal? It is just constant, ongoing. It is this, like it breaks your brain.
It does.
And so does trying to define joy. I don't know. That's where my mind goes.
So if you can't define it and it breaks your brain, but it seems to, I think like the pillars of Advent should be simple.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
They should be simple.
Sure.
How... Because I don't think the Bible is trying to complicate it. I don't
Right.
think... I just don't think so. How can it be brought up on a tangible, experiential conversation if our goal is to engage joy, to remember joy because I've forgotten it?
Sure. Yeah.
Because the church calendar, it assumes you forgot.
That's why we talk about it every year.
So I always think like,
Yeah.
okay, I forget about hope. I forget about peace. I have forgotten joy.
Yeah.
How about if it's hard to pinpoint the thing that joy is, how about pinpointing the thing that joy isn't? So if I forget about joy, who am I?
Well, I think I might be able to pinpoint a little bit.
Yeah,
of
but by
what
saying
joy
it's
is.
eternity, it's like, I'm pretty poetic there, and I just can't. Like, I just want to like hit the button and say, okay, that was it on joy. And I'll take off my headphone and go, Stetson,
Well, okay,
what are you doing?
Like, so let me ask you this,
Preach
KJ.
it.
Have you ever been out in the woods and you're hunting and something that you see just stops you in your tracks?
No.
Like maybe it's an elk that's up on the horizon with this beautiful sunrise or sunset in the
That's
back.
pretty poetic there.
Right.
Yeah.
But like you know that feeling when you stop and you go, this is a holy moment.
Yeah.
And there is something beautiful about this that I can define, but not really define what's happening.
Absolutely.
Like when Stetson talks about joy, I think about that feeling we might get when we see something like that, where it feels like heaven is breaking into this earth. And there's just this glimpse of like, man, this is the thing that is really real. This is the thing that is really true. And you are getting to experience it here in this moment. And so to go back to the story of my family, right? Like, earthly speaking, they lost their son.
Yep.
He is gone.
Yep.
But there in this moment, this holy encounter with Jesus, they caught a glimpse into eternity and they saw what was truly real. Because their eyes, their body, their physical senses told them, your son is gone.
Right.
But there in that moment, something else said, but no, he's not.
Yeah, it's more than a feeling.
It is.
And I just there has it's like I think there's an intersection that faith or theology and philosophy become faith, or I remember going on the funeral topic, and so it's funny that that joy brings us here. That after my mom died, heaven became, oh man, we're going to eternity. Dang it.
Keep going.
Before she died, heaven had been a fun concept. It was something I could talk about. I would have fun like pointing at and proving and discussing. After my mom died, it was like heaven has to be real.
Yep.
I don't care about talking anymore. I don't want to argue about it anymore. Like, I have friends who enjoy debating things. I don't find it fun anymore because it's become a thing of the heart. Of there's an experience there that I'm done just talking about it. I want to experience it, and it's that experience that I believe I'm actually experiencing that is the strength that keeps me going forward, because things don't get any easier the older you get. It actually gets a lot harder. And I think it's like, if I could ball that up.
Yeah. Well, and this is where like I don't think you can talk about joy without talking about hope and peace.
True.
Right. So when you think about this Advent season and journey that we're on, there is a reason that it goes hope, peace, joy. love. Because to experience joy, you need to understand your hope. To experience joy, you need to understand and experience peace. And I really believe that when you understand hope and you experience hope, when you understand peace and you know, experience peace, joy is the natural byproduct of that, because it is like heaven is peeling back the curtains a little bit and going like, yeah, some of the stuff you're walking through, it really sucks. It's really hard, but let me show you what's real. Let me show you what's coming. Let me show you what is true. And I don't think we can experience anything other than joy in that moment. But to Stetson's point, it's like it's so hard to quantify to go, well, it's like, and we could all tell our stories, right? Your funeral story, the story of my family and their loss, like those are real things, but I even struggle to put words to what I saw and experienced in that moment. Like what I use to describe, and probably what you use to describe too, like it is a fraction of the actual emotions that are going on underneath the surface. Like our words are this feeble attempt to try to take this thing we are feeling inside and put it into words, and they're just inadequate. There's something powerful about joy that you just know it when you experience it.
Yeah, I think the experience of joy is this gift where we are experiencing the actual reality of the things that we are talking about for a moment. And it can't be conjured up. Just like Christian Wyman said, you can't conjure it. It just happens. And I think it's so important to identify joy as something really deep and special, whether you like the connotation with eternity or not. That's aside the point, but it is so important for us to pinpoint joy is something deeply rooted so that when it does happen, we can hold on to it and realize I am experiencing the reality of something, not just this fleeting glimpse of like a feeling, but it's like, no, this is happening.
All right, I got to ask the question.
All right.
And okay, so for all of us who are experiencing this podcast, there's been hope and peace, and there's been experiences. Yeah. And then it kind of sits in this Christmas season thing. And there is this idea or this pressure to create joy.
Yeah, I hate
it's
that.
a season of joy.
I hate that.
There's this pressure to feel joyful.
Yep. Hate that.
This topic of the upcoming 7 days is about joy. How do I engage it? How do I practice it? How do I ask for it? How can I change the context for this Christmas season if I can't conjure it up?
I don't think you do.
How?
I don't think you do. I think it's what Stetson was saying. You almost let it find you and you experience it.
But I think we can still ask for it. Like, and I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like, because it's not, hey, here's 5 steps to be a more joyful person this holiday season. Let me guess, Stetson hates that.
I would get the book.
I would read that book 3 times.
But I think it's fully appropriate to go to the Lord and say, all right, like, God, like, can you help me see things as they truly are? Can you open my eyes to the reality of what is around me? Can you help me see these things that I'm walking through, these things that I'm experiencing in my life? Like, help me see them the way you do. Help me experience joy. Because you're not in that moment praying for a feeling, right? Again, joy is much more than a feeling. There are emotive responses to that, but we're not praying that God would change our feelings. I think what we're really asking him to do is to realign our hearts and the ways in which we value things and the ways in which we see things. Again, like we're getting after the root issues here.
It's good.
Talking about joyful seasons, that's surface level, right? That's like Hallmark movie. That's like,
I love Hallmark movies.
I know. My
so
wife
much
does
joy.
too. Bring you happiness, Jenny. I'll bring you joy. Yeah. But I think the invitation of Advent, like it's always like, let's go a little deeper. Let's explore this a little bit further.
Yep. I don't think I'm turning the corner here. I want to keep going forward a bit. Okay, in that passage, the joy of the Lord is my strength. He's not saying my own joy is my strength. And then thinking about just the carol, joy to the world, the Lord has come. Joy is, there's a thing. And then in our past podcast, talking about the idea of simplicity, so it was promised that
We would talk
about
Yeah.
and in the big question of, does this bring you joy? I want to circle the word bring and tie all those thought processes together.
Okay.
So I have an idea, right?
It's just like, I don't know. I can't complete my sentence, but it's like, I don't have it. Is it brought?
Yeah. Okay. Were you going to say something?
Yeah. So like all that stuff you just shared, right? So if joy is being anchored to the thing that is really true and being able to see that and experience that, then the question I'm asking is like, okay, through Maria Kondo lens, does this bring me
Yes,
joy?
this was the goal. We brought her into this one.
You're welcome, everybody.
Check.
Does this way of thinking, or do these things I engage in, or is this experience of my life right now, is this keeping me anchored to the thing that is really true? That's kind of where my mind is going. So I don't know if that's where your mind was going, but you didn't finish your sentence. So
I think,
got to.
like, if we're looking for simplicity and we're looking for joy instead of it being this ethereal thing that just lands on us, there's something Jesus says in John where he says, obey my commandments. I've said this so that your joy may be complete.
Yep.
And this is my commandment. Love others as I have loved you. Again, I don't think we can conjure the experience of joy, but for me personally, and I think this is what Jesus is getting at here, I have experienced a lot of joy when I have loved people like Jesus has loved me, which again ties into Advent. It's not just like, I need, but it's like, no. How can we give? And like, it is like, we can't conjure joy, but I think we can often find it if we know where to look.
Yeah.
And when we love other people like Jesus, when we show other people who Jesus is, often there is an experience of joy there.
That's good.
There's actually this really cool thing. It happens on December 13th. It's called the Feast of St. Lucy. And there's this legend of this woman named Lucy who lived in Rome in the 300s, which was during this time where there was tons of Christian persecution. And so there were Christians hiding out in the catacombs, like the underground cemetery in Rome. And she would bring them food, but to be able to make her way through these dark catacombs and carry as much food as possible, it said she had this wreath on her head with candles so that she could have both arms to carry all this food and light her way at the same time. And just like this image of a person with like this wreath on their head full of candles, arms full of food, walking into places of death where Christians are hiding to bring them light and bring them food. Like, just the image of that, like it just stirs something inside you. And so I love how that's happening close to today. Connected to this joy, and we're talking about loving others like Jesus, because I think it looks like that.
And that's practiced today. It's the Feast of St. Lucia.
Yes.
You know, and girls, they'll dress up and they have the headdress and they bring cookies and and that's a part of the Advent season for the Swedish part of the church. Yeah, that's beautiful that you brought that in.
Yeah, so just like using that imagery, it's like, how can we put a wreath of candles on our head and get arms full of food and walk into places of death where people are hiding and afraid.
Which again, like when you look at society and culture, that might not be the way our world tells us we experience joy, right? Step into a place of death, step into a place of suffering.
But that's what Jesus
Exactly.
did.
That's
exactly
the point,
what
right?
Jesus
So
did.
when we
Yep.
are in the pursuit of joy, like there is this, we anchor ourselves to that real thing. And it's like, all right, so Jesus said, you want joy? Love people the way I do, right? Like
do what I did.
make your value system kingdom values. Like because like what would our world tell us would help us experience joy? More
Pepperoni
money in your
pizza?
bank account,
Pizza?
less chaos in the house,
movie?
a movie, long vacation, right? Like there are all these superficial things, but serving other people, loving other people, often, just from a surface level, it's like, that's work. Like that's hard. That's going to cost me something. It's like, well, yes, it's going to, but you are going to get so much more back in the form of joy than you're ever going to be able to give.
I seriously enjoy this idea. I'm embodying joy. Enjoy this idea of participating in the things that Jesus did, especially in his coming, right? Like when he came, he crashed heaven into earth. He came into a dark place. So if you think about him lowering himself to be born into a baby, this Advent experience is bringing us into a place of Christmas is beginning to shimmer a bit.
Yeah.
It's becoming real.
All right. Well,
All right, so bring us home here.
What's a good practice for this
So
week?
here's something I was just thinking about. There are things in the Advent season that I feel like I'm really great at. I'm great at hope. Like I am the hope guy.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's what I do.
Yeah.
And then I go into peace, and it's like I could practice peace a little better. I come to joy. I'm like, I'm here. I'm just totally excited. I don't know. I don't know.
How is it brought?
All right. Well, I kind of feel like the joy guy.
Yeah, I know. So it's just like,
All right.
teach me your ways.
Here.
Marie.
Here's my hope.
I'm the hope
No,
guy.
it's joy.
Here's your joy, bro.
So again, I believe joy, it just happens sometimes. Like it just lands in our lap. But other times, like it happens in response to something, like loving other people like Jesus. My desire is that when we experience joy, we identify it for what it is, so that we don't miss out on it. Because I think it's really easy to miss out on it. I think it's really easy to call it something else, to call it, wow, that made me feel alive, or like it's like so rewarding. It's
My cup is full.
Yeah, my cup is full, and like those things are
They're
true.
They're true.
Or like we might say, it's like, wow, I felt such joy, but with like this very, like we call it a feeling or an emotion. I invite you to experiment with the idea that when we experience joy, we are experiencing the reality of everything that we talk about and believe for a moment. And that is a gift. And I don't know, I invite you to experiment with that with me so that we don't miss out on it. And at the very least, we just value it as something really special.
Is
because
it
a
possible
gift.
to give me an example? Like how do I do that?
Okay, so Saint Lucy, she was martyred. Like she was killed. Maybe that's going too far down a road. Okay, all right. When we do something really selfless for someone, when we love someone like Jesus and we give something really big to someone else, the logic of that is reckless. Why would you give that much money? You need that. Why would you give this much time? Like you need that. But by giving something you need and experiencing this feeling, you are swept into this reality of like, I don't need that to the degree that I thought I did. Like we are experiencing the reality of the abundance that we actually live in.
So it's not the idea of the sacrifice bringing joy, but it's the understanding. It's the St. Francis experience of throwing everything away.
Yeah, it's this flash of eternity of like, oh, I have so much. Like, I gave a drop in an infinite bucket of water. And that moment doesn't last.
There it is. Yep.
But for the moment that it's there, embrace it for what it is.
Yep.
Of like this massive bucket of abundance. Abundance of resources or time or whatever it is, but just like identifying that so that we don't miss out on the gift of the curtains being pulled back for a moment.
So it's being able to circle and identify when it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just experienced a glimpse of eternity.
Yep.
In
I
that
love
moment.
that. I love that.
Yeah.
And it probably happens a lot more often than you think.
Yeah. Yep.
That would be the hypothesis. Yep. So go and experience joy. Circle the times that you see it and tell us about it because that would be very, very fun.